to be here sharing family lessons with you. I do hope every member of your family is well. This morning, I just would like to encourage you by telling you that God is for you. So no one else can be against you. They can only try to hit you. But trust me, they won't be able to succeed in anything that they plot. Because the God whom you have focused on is bigger, greater, and He's the omnipotent. Sometimes it's difficult as human beings, to just continue to trust and to have faith. But if only you can continue to trust that you have a God who is bigger than anything else, trust me, you will be victorious. So don't worry too much. I understand that we're humans. So sometimes, yeah, it gets in the way. But even when you're down as a human being, always have it at the back of your mind that there is a God who is looking out for you. One more time, good morning, and you're tuned into Home Affairs on Joy 99.7 FM. Daniela, thank you very much for production. This morning, my guest, the Reverend Alan Okumin Mensah. I have my brother and friend, PG Sebastian, and then we have Lawyer Painter as well. And we have another all-men conversation coming up for you. So this is the third week. We started by asking why men switch off. You are with your partner, be it in a relationship or marriage, and then you realize that somehow things are not as they used to be, and person is switching off and you don't understand. We had that conversation. We got a lot of insight. Thereafter, which is last week, we asked, so when a man decides that you're the woman I love, then what? Deep insight. So 2 weeks of, master class for men. And this is directed as women. I picked my lessons. I hope you picked yours, just so you can smoothen things up in your relationship and in your marriage. And then here we are with a third conversation. And this morning, we're asking, how do men like to resolve conflict with their women? How do they like to approach it? And in that process, when, conflicts are inevitable. Whoever tells you that, once the person loves you or the person, cares so much about you, you won't have conflict, it's a joke. Even you conflict with yourself. When you wake up in the morning, sometimes what to eat, what to wear, sometimes you realize that you're angry at yourself for nothing. So conflicts are inevitable, and especially so in a relationship where you are in the same space with somebody morning, afternoon, evening, all day. You will get on the person's nerves. They would get on your nerves. You will get irritated at things they do or say. But sometimes, right, they're very big fights that get us, staying in the distance for a while. We're not talking to each other for a while. We're not approaching each other for a while. And women, we have our way of doing our things, men too do. But sometimes we just want to understand how our men approach these things so that we don't even end up complicating things. Would they like to be left alone for some time? In the process where they're being left alone and they're not talking to you and they're going and coming and telling you you're feeling all terrible, that when to go approach him, talk to him, or do we have to wait until they're okay and they come around because you're not sure what the reactions will be and all that? We just want to understand that when there is a challenge in the home or in your relationship, and you realize that you are the one who has, especially so, hurt the man, you have hurt your man so bad, and he's upset. What do you do? And in that process, what are we to expect? How do they like to approach conflict, resolve it? And what would a woman's responsibility be during that process? And that's the conversation we want to have this morning and understand. PG, good morning. How are you? Hi, PG. You haven't unmuted yourself. Okay.
Right, I'm good. I'm totally good. How are you too?
I am well. Thank you. And do I have Reverend Okume on the line? Reverend Okume, are you there?
Peace, love,
Great, great, great. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And then Lawyer Painter, are you there too? Okay, great. Let me start with you, PG. You've heard my question.
Right.
And I just want it to be very simple. Not too many winding questions. If you start and there are follow-up questions, I would ask. But immediately we have to find out. We understand that conflicts are inevitable. They will come.
Right.
But especially so when it gets to that point when it is so heated. And, someone is taking their key and they're driving out, and probably even at night they decide to go and sleep on the couch and you're in the room alone and all of those things. How do men cool off, wind down, and then now approach the issue? And what are we supposed to be doing when all that is happening?
Well, I think, Adam, people are different, and people would want to resolve conflicts differently. But readily, the first thing that comes to my mind when you're dealing with an African man, and more specifically, a Ghanaian man, and his approach to conflict, whether it's resolution or going through the process, you find out that a lot of typical Ghanaian men will always want to fall on social constructs. So sometimes you find these men arguing along the lines of what the society says. So society says he is a man, he is a head. So when he's upset and he's talking, normally he prefers not for you to talk back, or not for you to be in a position where you seem to have a say or have a reason for doing what you're doing, instead of probably just going straight to the point, apologizing. And even if you won't admit that you are wrong, you just apologize, you try to calm him down, you try to babysit him, you try to bring him along. He wants to, throw his weight around because an African thing, it sits well in our African context and the way we approach things. The man is always right. The man is always the head. The woman is the subservient one. The woman is the one who is supposed to be in a place of submission. So most African men tend to abuse, if I can put it that way. And in this one, Ghanaian men, tend to abuse some of these social constructs to always make the woman the one who finally apologizes. Of course, there are instances where you find men who are, you find women who are very strong and they will never apologize when they know that they are not wrong. But if it gets to our counselors, eventually if you get to our pastor, eventually if it will get to our parents, it always go back with their own or your bar, with their kopacho, with their nyashe. These men. He wants just his ego to be massaged. And I believe that a lot of men actually, or a lot of Ghanaian men for that matter, actually would want to toe that line. So sometimes you realize that issues have happened. Nobody's actually discussing the root cause of the conflict, the root cause, what actually it was that led to the events that is now requiring a form of resolution. You realize that they are never solved. There is always the playing around it and then all that, because you don't want to hit some key cultural nerves. You don't want to come across as a disrespectful woman. You don't want to come across as an usurper. So most often you find that men will use these cultural constructs to their favor, whether they are right or wrong. It hasn't really worked well, which is why you also find higher degrees of divorce in our modern time than it was in the past. Because now women are also becoming very woke. They're also becoming very aware. They're also earning their money. They're also earning their own education. They also have a mind of their own. So wherever they find out that now they are made to apologize, they are made to resolve conflict, not because the issue itself is resolved, but that they need to appease the gods, if I can put it that way. The gods in their family, they need to appease them. It gets to a point they can't do this again. It is like, no, I can't do this again. I can't always be the one apologizing, even when I know clearly that I'm not in the wrong. But just to let society fulfill all righteousness and let the family thing go on, I have to always be wrong. I have to be the one who's always begging. No, it gets to a point to realize that women don't want to do that again. Or the 21st century Ghanaian woman also doesn't want to do that again. So that's the first thing that I would like to touch on when it comes to, men and how they would, the typical Ghanaian man, how he deals with conflicts, which may not necessarily be the best of approach, but it's predominant and it's worth mentioning. I think your other guests will also want to have a word or
Okay,
two on
before
that.
I move on to Reverend Okuming, so when it gets to that point, like you're saying, and a woman decides that, or the woman wakes up and comes to the realization that, okay, I can't always be wrong. I can't always be the one apologizing, especially so when I am truly not wrong. It's just that we're not getting to the bottom of the issue, and you
Right.
trying to understand where the challenges are coming from first to tackle it from the roots, like you're saying. When the woman gets to that point where, okay, she's, beginning to also fight back,
Right.
what are the implications for the family, for the relationship, for the home?
Normally, I believe that most men are rational and most men are logical. Most men know that when a man is wrong, he knows he's wrong. It's just the whole act. It's just the whole saving face. It's just the whole taking a stand and taking a posture. But normally when they realize that the woman is not yielding, especially when it's not in the woman's nature, because there are some women who it's in their nature always to contend or to challenge or to argue. But there are some men, they know that their women are not generally that type. They are the ones that periodically would give in, periodically would take a stand and all that. So this man, when he realizes that in this position, his wife's position is kind of becoming a bit entrenched and she's not giving in. Normally, when the man realizes his wife has come to that place, he begins to back down a little bit, because then he also comes to a place of knowing that whilst when it goes before the elders, or whilst when it comes out, people will always call on the woman to give in. He also is intrinsically aware of the fact that it also says something about him. And most of the time, he wouldn't want it to get there, especially when all he's been doing is manipulation, trying to play on the social construct card and everything. He knows that when it gets out there, he will not be in the good books of a lot of people, or people who actually get to hear the events, even if it's with his children, So it gets to that point when the woman takes a stand, and the woman begins to realize that, no, I can't always be the one apologizing. And she has that big conversation or that big fight. Most of the time, you find out that the men kind of come around. In my line of counseling, especially when I counsel the younger families that are coming up, there is always that anger, there's always that depression, there's always that exasperation when you talk to the young people about how they are always, the young women, how they are always the ones who are wrong, how they are always the ones who are apologizing, how they are always the ones who are trying to resolve conflict, how when even the guy is wrong, the ones who are always making attempts to make amends. Now, when you tell them to have honest conversations with their men and let them understand that this cannot go on. Normally, when they have those conversations, they come back and tell you that how they come back and share how their men were kind of a little bit shocked that for the first time they are not crying, but they're actually having a serious conversation. For the first time, they are not running around confused, begging, calling family members and everything, but they have their own voice. They are actually taking a stand and they're actually defending their cause. You realize that the men are actually, shaking up a bit. They come to that place of realizing that, okay, it looks like I've gotten to the end of my leash. If I'm not careful, this thing is going to tip over. And if it tips over, I'm likely to lose. So normally when it gets there, the men kind of, sit up a little bit. I won't say it's a general thing, it's a universal truth. There are some men, when you push them just out of ego and just out of trying to prove that they are men, they won't tip over. And that messes everything up. So, normally when a woman takes a stand, the man is willing to compromise a bit. Yeah.
I was just going to come to that. I noted two quick questions again I wanted to ask because of your submissions again, so that we clarify things and then I can go to Reverend Okuming. And I actually really like the balance and panel we have today. You will be for the much younger, families, and then, Reverend Bridges that got very quickly. Now, I wanted to find out from you. You talked about the exasperation and the, irritation women have, and sometimes the impatience and all, when it comes to the fact that in relationships and marriages, they're always the ones who are apologizing, even when it is not their fault. I know you have talked about the fact that it could be coming out of a social construct where men feel that they don't have to apologize because, in quotes, they are the head of the families, they do the provision and all that. So why would I be the one to apologize? That's there. But and you also talked about the fact that women in this generation now, 21st century women, are becoming, very
assertive,
aware, assertive, yes, and very much aware of themselves and knowing what their quote unquote their rights and their places and their positions are, right? And so realizing that, okay, yes, much as it may be a social construct or something that men have been used to, it is not right for them to be the ones who are always crying and trying to apologize. Now, what I'm trying to find out is, even now, for the woman who is woke and very much aware of himself, why is that still the position until that time when she decides that, okay, I won't do this again? Is it out of fear of losing the man? Why is it still like that? And then second, mention this, but probably you don't want to address all of them together. Secondly, to also find out, if you take that stand and the man doesn't back down, okay, and you push him to the point where he's even saying that, oh, really? All of a sudden, you think you have a voice. You think you can speak. All right, let's get this going and let's see. And he decides that, me, if you cry, I won't even talk. I won't even mind you. I'm not backing down. What happens?
Okay, Adam, for the first part, what you will notice is that it's individual women may be woke and may therefore take this posture. But then decisions surrounding marriages and family, they are bigger than just two people. They are bigger than just the two people involved in that conflict. There are also the children, the parents, the church, the legal system. There are so many things. So that eventually when it comes there, the woman feels that, you know what, sometimes for the sake of peace. And there is a woman who would think first about the children. It's a woman who would think first about their church. It's a woman who would think first about parents. Most men really don't care. I mean, they will do all the things that they do, and then later they go and beg or they go and apologize. And then, but most women are a lot more nuanced and a lot more aware. They would rather prevent than to fix. Whereas for the men, they will take any stand until the thing comes before elders or the thing comes out, and then, they will apologize. So normally when the women come to that place, regardless of how they feel, how educated they are and all that, until they get to the tipping point, until they actually get to the exact tipping point, most of the time they want to stagger it. Most of the time they want to take a break, take a pause, and then just apologize for the sake of peace. Just apologize for the sake of the family. So then again, it all adds up to the frustration, because ordinarily, left to them alone, they would have taken a stand and acted. But then she also sings in the church. How will the pastor see her if the husband reports her to the pastor? She is also the head of the women's ministry, or she is part of this women's empowerment, whatever. What will people say? And she is known to really be somebody different to the parents. So if the husband should report her to her parents, what will they say? So she will factor all these and make all these considerations, and eventually she will be like, okay, well, just forget it. It's not worth it. So she stays. The other part, again, most often you find out, again, the current generation of women who are coming are also very much, they are business minded in terms of when it comes to making everyday family decisions. There's a lot of business that goes into it. So she gets to a point where she realizes that I need to take a stand. Now she takes a stand and it kind of backfires, because she doesn't get the effect she wants. The man doesn't yield. The man doesn't give in. Now she's asking herself, if I need to make a business decision, what would be the best approach? If I insist on still keeping my stand, and this man is also keeping a stand, then we have an entrenched position. What happens to us? Then she begins to make ordinary or everyday calculations. If I let this issue go, what will happen? And if I have to carry this all the way through, what are the implications? And she will look at the issues involved. And if it means that she will have to just apologize, because there are not issues worth losing a family over. There are not issues worth having divorcing over. There are not issues worth escalating. You know, there could be things that she thought when she take a stand, she'll get the kind of solution she wants or kind of effect she wants. It's backfired, but she's looking at the general and the bigger picture, and she's thinking, these are not the things to lose a family over. Yes, I could be the one who is always apologizing for his infidelity. Because my sex is not good, he goes out to go and cheat. I come back and I have to give him more sex. Because my food didn't taste well, he went out to eat from another woman's house. Now I need to improve my cooking. And she's been doing bits and pieces of all of this. But it comes to a particular conflict that she realizes that as for this conflict, if I don't fight, so one of them is the abuse, or one of them is the infidelity. So you are now blaming her for you going to cheat, or you are blaming her for provoking you to beat her. And it gets to a point she takes a stand. These two things, trust me, most women would like to see it come to a logical end. If the marriage should collapse, let it collapse. I cannot be the one who is always being beaten and still apologizing or giving more sex. I cannot be the one who is cheated on and I still have to give more sex and I still have to be the doormat for you. No, I can't. So for most women, when it comes to some of these issues, so depending on the nature of the conflict, some, when the man doesn't back down, they won't also back down. But for some, sometimes they may be just petty pet peeves or things that need to be addressed. But some way, somehow, the man is playing around it. For those ones, when the man takes a stand and decides that he won't do anything about it, sometimes the woman is forced to back down. So it depends. There are things she will back down, there are things she won't back down. But you know,
I will move to Reverend Okume now because you see, I could ask a lot more questions. Have you read Dr. Dobson's Love Must Be Tough?
No, I've not read that one.
Okay. If you did, we'd have had a little bit of conversation in that regard. Maybe after the show, we'll talk about it and see how we have probably a follow-up conversation later on the radio. But yeah, I have enjoyed your submissions, really. Reverend, how are you?
On top.
Great.
I'm still rising.
We bless God. So we've been talking about how men like to approach conflict. And
how young men and young women fight.
I thought we could actually even go a bit backwards to talk about why we fight. And then when the fight comes, how we fight. And then how we like to resolve the conflict. Yes, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, okay. You have asked 3 questions. I will help listeners with it. Why? One of the things that runs through all conflicts is the fact that people are not appreciative of the fact that they are married to a different person. Whether it's man or woman, your husband is different. And my position on even good marriages is, as I said, you are marrying your opposite. So you are starting from a point of departure and gradually working your way through to make this beautiful departure of opposites attracting. And therefore, you have to, along the way, develop skills that will help you. And I like the submission of PG. If you don't develop the skills, then this intransigence still sits in there. But if you are developing the skills as you go along, you will find out that conflicts, arguments will not necessarily develop into conflicts, will not necessarily become confrontational, and will not necessarily move to where people begin to freeze because they are intransigent, or they are freezing because they don't want to be either the loser in a fight always. So they freeze, they just go numb. But for men, one of the things that the women out there need to realize is men take a lot more time to process information. We are not as quick in reaction and quick with our words as the women are. The women are spontaneous. A man will process a statement that has been spoken. And one of the things I've grown to realize is when a woman speaks, she has spoken, that's all. She doesn't store the information the way we store. Unfortunately, when we speak, they store our information. You have a bank of it. They will even remind you of it 10 years after you have spoken it. So I believe strongly that if people, or generally if women will understand the fact that we are still slow in processing our information. When a word is spoken, like PG said, a man will process it logically and see what is in it, what has been said. How does it concern me? How does it affect my position as a husband? How does it affect my position as a male? How does it affect my position as a father? All those things, a man is going to process all that. So immediately, the man's position is, I must not lose this fight. And to be frank with you, men don't like losing. Immediately. I mean, whether it was an uppercut, a blow below the belt, immediately the position is, I must not lose. Hey. And all the processes that PG has taken us through is sometimes it just helps the man to gradually process the information and gets to a stage where he understands that, okay, for this, I will not be the loser, but I'll also not be the winner. But there are men who, I mean, for whatever reason, will never, ever, based on society, based on friends, based on their position, based on their family pedigree, there are men who will never, ever want to lose any fight or lose any argument or lose any confrontation. They must be declared winners before even the confrontation starts. But I believe strongly that if women will understand us and understand the fact that we process information slowly, sometimes you let the whole thing, go quiet. The man will process the information. Sometimes we come back 1 week, 3 days later and pick up the issue, and I hear all the women saying that, so did you hear what I said, or did you really appreciate what I said? It is our nature to slowly process information. We are not as quick and as spontaneous with words and with phrases and with everything as the women are, because men internalize and women are expressive in anything that they do. They are expressive. They will say what they want to say, how they want to say it. And it's not down the consequences, but that is their nature. They will say it. And sometimes, many men have heard, I know you don't love me. Many men have heard, I know you don't like me. Many men have heard, I know you are not kind. But the moment they say it, 15 minutes later, they are back as your wife, not processing them. But this man is going to process this information. How come that she said that? What have I done? So the man is going to internalize this. Sometimes go historically, go back and look at all the things and see whether there are things or trends that is leading to this. And that is why sometimes men are slow in responding to your spontaneous demands or arguments or spontaneous wish that we respond on the issue on the spot. And you don't get it and you think that your man has changed. We have not changed. We are just processing the information that we have received. But I always tell people that in very successful marriages, people have married their best friend or have made their spouses their best friend. You know, PG and others will agree with me that with your best friend, whether woman or man, you can say all what you said and go and come and still think that he's still your best friend. But I don't know what happens when people get married, whether it is because we don't build our spouses as our best friends, but we build them as a foreign object or something. The way we treat our best friends, we don't even sometimes treat our spouses the same. But if you can make your spouse your best friend, then you will understand that you can handle what is happening without becoming intransigent, without becoming overly defensive, without defending your turf as a man in the marriage. But one of the things that men also need to, since we are talking of how we handle conflicts, one of the things we need to understand is we are, like PG alluded to, we are inherently held accountable. After all is said and done, it will come back to you as your marriage. When they go and they say, when in Bunkra, they will say that you, the man, your marriage is failing, your home is tearing apart. What are you doing about it?
Yep.
After the woman is even gone, they will sit you down and tell you that, Maza, you cannot disgrace this family. You are the man. Go and take charge and make sure that your home does not tear apart. Go and repair your home. That is what they will tell you always at the end of it all. So if we understand that we are these home keepers, that we must keep that home from external and internal attack, then we will definitely appreciate the fact that yes, arguments may come, confrontations may come, conflicts may come, but at the end of the day, you as the man, you are held accountable.
Right.
And that is one of the things that men must always bear in mind.
Right. That they are always held accountable. All right. Let me say that this is Home Affairs. If you're just joining us, you're tuned into Home Affairs on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Adam Knight. Today I have been having conversations with PG Sebastian, with Dr. Reverend Dr.
Reverend, I don't have any doctor.
I'm handing all of it for you, Reverend Alana Kubi. And then we have Lawyer Painto also on the line. We have been finding out how men approach conflict, how they like to resolve conflict with their women, and usually what are women to respect, or what do the women also have to do when conflicts are ongoing in the home. Home Affairs is brought to us by Dano Milk. Strength comes from within. Now, milk. Let me just share a little bit of Dano Milk information with you. Milk just got exciting with Dano Milk. Dano Milk has 3 extra amazing powdered flavors, and that's it comes in chocolate, it comes in strawberry and coffee. Beyond being creamy and tasty with pleasant and natural aroma, they are filled with nutrients that help you grow stronger, and that's mentally and physically. So get your favorite Dano milk. That's the 40 grams sachet at 1 Ghana cedi only. Dano milk, strength comes from within. And remember, when you're preparing it, you can either use hot, you can use warm, or you can use cold water. Let me also tell you about something exciting that's happening on Joy FM from Monday, the 17th of August. So we have all new amazing tweaks to our programming. In the morning, you will wake up to the morning show with Kojo Yansin and the team, and then Dorinando comes your way between 10 and noon with a Cosmopolitan mix, and then usually you would have drive time come your way from 2 p.m. all through to 5:30. But the all new tweak is that between 1 and 3 p.m., Sammy Forsen is going to come your way with Ignition, where in between, after the news and after you have had Living Word with Dr. Mensa Otabil, we switch on to Ignition. That is ahead of the drive time with, some very amazing love tunes and, some mid-tempo sounds, so that, by which time when you're done having lunch and you're feeling all slow in the office and wondering, oh, is my day going to go again? I'm tired. No, we're going to keep you ignited throughout the afternoon before handing you over to, all-time yo-yo driver Lexus Bill at 3 p.m. to continue with the drive time. And then, of course, that Evans Mensah will come your way at 5:30 with Top Story. MFA and Evans, that tag team will bring you news nights. Before we go back again, if it's Monday, you have Nana and Sapa. Tuesday, you have Geek Squad. Wednesday, you have Strong and Sassy, and then Personality Profile. Then you have First Take on Friday. So we have an all-new tweak to our programming and would like you to stay tuned in. Masterclass will come your way on Wednesdays after the business news. And so we'd like you to stay with us. Enjoy the new lineup we have, and, ready just go better. We just set another pace. And this is Joy FM, 25 years of media excellence, and we are excited about the things we keep doing. I also quickly would like to share some COVID-19 tips with you. Face shield is designed to protect you from harmful particles flying through the air. That means your face mask may become contaminated while you wear it in public. Wash your hands before and after putting on your shield. Wash your face shield often with soap and running water, or keep it clean with Clorox wipe. Wear both face mask and shield to be fully protected. These tips are brought to us by Petrosol, clean fuel in full quantity. Now I have Lawyer Painter on the line. Lawyer, this morning we do hear that you're laying your brother to rest, but you still make time to join us, for God and country. Thank you very much, and our condolences. We knew earlier we would have planned to come and support you, but God knows best. Stay strong. Are you on the line, though? Hello, Lawyer. I am. Okay. Just stay there for me for just a minute. We will be back. Daniela, let's take the break and come back to talk to Lawyer Painter.
Coffee and flavor. Energy to stay strong.
1 Ghana cedi pay. Enjoy your Dano milk and be strong. This advert is vetted and approved by the FDA.
Hey, no, what's your baby? It's what's in your ma? Yeah, what is something special become mania shepeana. Adio. Aha, Samika. Oh, medi omo nesi. Omo kwa. Omo dine boshe soda. Ne tutunke kadia si defe. Tete so die. Ni ram no sankasa. Omo die. Dada na koneni.
Na fragrance no.
Echewonta die musa. Omo extra fresh. Etutunke kadia se kura. Ejabdien krat wo yebdi ahwehwemu agye atum sɛ ye.
Have you heard? That have you heard is the most asked question in the morning. By 10 a.m., 5 million Ghanaians have heard, have you heard, at least twice. You hear it in the trotro, in the queue for Hajia's Wache, and at the cocoa joint around the corner. And when you hear, have you heard, then you know the Kokonza is going to be juicy and kasa.
So, have you heard that Airtel Tigo calls are free from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. for 6 months?
6 months?
Yes, you heard right. 6 months of free morning calls when you buy an Airtel Tigo SIM and make a simple transaction on Airtel Tigo Money. Well, now you know. Share the news because Hong Kong no get leg. Get an Airtel Tigo SIM today.
Airtel Tigo. Life is simple. One Ghana city, Sunlight Basel. Now one Ghana city only. Grab yours now. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
All right, thank you very much for staying tuned in. Thank you very much for staying tuned in. This is Home Affairs on Joy 99.7 FM. We have been talking about how men like to approach conflict. Let me quickly say happy birthday to Madame Felicia Tego of Asylum Down, wishing her God's favor. May she have more healthy years in the decades ahead. And this is from Emmeline Tego. I also would like to say a very happy birthday to, belated happy birthday wishes to Sammy Forson. Yesterday was your birthday. This morning you will be on air with a squad. God bless you, Sammy. And always know that you're valued. Now let me come to you, Lawyer Painter. So, I'd like to, how is it that some conflicts never get resolved and then they end up with you?
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Actually, if we're a lawyer and you do family law and you practice family law, issues of divorce, all of them, one of the first things that you are taught or told is never to treat marriage issues.
Lawyer Painter, can you hear me?
Loss of contract, somebody buying tomatoes, failing to pay, somebody being in breach of. Hello?
Yes. Hi. Okay, so you can, I think your bandwidth is a bit, hello, Lawyer Painter, your bandwidth is a bit low, so you can turn the video off so we do the audio.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is that okay now?
Yes, it is. It is.
Hello?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. Yes. First, I like to speak as a lawyer. I also like to speak as a Christian. Maybe not necessarily a pastor, but a Christian. First, as a lawyer, one of the first things that you get to learn in family law is that you don't treat marriage issues like ordinary issues about contract. Somebody having bought something, failed to pay, somebody being in breach. In other words, issues relating to marriage, I mean, they relate
okay.
To,
so here's what we'll do. I see you are on the road. Daniela,
another area that reflection on the part of a law.
Hello, lawyer. Lawyer Painter.
Hi.
We really need to get a full input of what you're saying. Hold on. Daniela is going to call you on phone. Let's use the phone. It will be better.
Yes.
So just hold on. She's going to call you on phone shortly so that we can hear you properly. Because you're on the road and the network is not stable.
Oh, so that I speak on the phone rather, is it?
Yes, please. It will be better so that we can have some stability.
All right, yeah. Adam, just before lawyer comes, there was one point that Reverend made that I just want to throw a little bit more light on. In my experience, what I have noticed is that when a couple are friends, it actually makes conflict resolution much easier.
Okay.
I have had sessions with couples that the woman made me feel like the world was coming to an end and everything was just collapsing. Only for the two of them to get on the call, on the video, and I'm staring at them, and these people are just teasing each other. They are just laughing, giggling. And then the whole 2 hours or so that we spent talking, you realize that they were just cool friends who were just having fun. You understand? So what I've noticed is that it's actually easier when you are friends. It makes it a little less painful when you are giving very critical feedbacks and when you are giving very sharp and pointed corrections, because normally when two people are in love, everything operates on the emotional level. So the same thing that another person will tell them and they take it cool. When you tell them, they get all emotional about it. So the same feedback, if your dress wasn't looking good, the same way your male colleague or your female colleague will just look at you and say, hey, Charlie, now they are no pay with you, now they want to try to man. So I can't do them for you. They will say it, and then all the person will do, oh, really, sir? Hey, and you're sorry, Charlie, where's the problem? Let their partner say the same thing, and that is going to be a third world war. And how can you say that? How can you even describe me like that? But you see, when they are friends, it is easy for the same communication to go, and the other person won't take it in a bad way. So I think that most couples that are friends, they tend to resolve conflict better, and they actually tend to have better. They actually tend to have arguments that can lead into conflict. You understand? So you can have very honest conversation, just so you are making out, let's just say, and then the other person needs to freshen up a little bit. You can just say it as it says. You don't need to think about what they are going to. You don't need to be aware of what they are going to say or how they are going to react. You just have to tell them that, matter, go and wash your mouth and come back. Go and wash your mouth and come back. I have to people blow fuse too much. The other person will just say it, and then it's just fun. We just move on. But if you are not friends, it becomes very difficult. So you walk on eggshells. You think twice before you open your mouth. Even when you are upset, you are very careful about what you say because you don't want to. This issue is just on grade 1. You don't want it to get out of hand and get to grade 5. So you would probably just keep quiet and let it slide rather than confronting it because you don't know how to go about it. So it's one of the things that I will encourage our listeners. Build unshakable friendship with your partner. Your partner should be your number one. Yes, your best friend. Last night, I was in counseling, and I was telling this young couple that there shouldn't be a situation where you are in a relationship, but you also have best friends of the opposite sex. The two of you should be your best friend. It makes it very easy to go through life on different levels, and in this instance, including conflict resolution. Yes.
Okay, great. Do we have Lawyer Painter on the line? Hello, Daniela. Lawyer Painter, do we have you on the line? Okay, I have this one here that says, good morning. It's the opposite that happens in my home. My partner will never accept she is at fault and let alone say sorry. So in this case, the woman would never accept that she's at fault and she will even say sorry. Okay, this one says that Auntie Edema, I'm loving the show. Thank you very much that we are impacting your home. This one says, good morning. If your marriage fails, don't blame Joy FM because we have all the conversations. And Isaac here says, good morning. Gracious as always. Thank you very much. Okay, I understand Lawyer Pencil is on the line. Hello. Hello, Lawyer. Can you hear me? Oh, why do we seem to be having such a challenge? I was actually beginning to enjoy the contract and not treating marriage as any other contract, but we can't hear Lawyer Painter. Please let's try and get it resolved quickly so that we can have that conversation. Okay, while we wait for that, Reverend.
Yes.
I'd like to again find out from you also. So PG talked about the fact that quite often it's the women who even go apologizing, even if it is not their fault. because you want to see some peace in your home by all means, you know. And I asked him, how does it impact the family when it gets to that point where the woman feels like you're taking me for granted too much? And then she takes that stand by saying that, look, you will have to start respecting me also by accepting that you're wrong, and also learn to apologize and for us to make amends. So if you are in that place where you're waiting for the man to make amends and it's not happening, or the man to come around, even start the conversation and it's not happening, and he's also thinking that, okay, all of a sudden you think you have arrived and, you know, you're challenging me, you won't apologize, and now everybody is entrenched in the home. What happens?
If these are two elephants and the children are the grass, they will be suffering. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
These are the two elephants in the house and the children are the grass. It means that the children are those who are going to be at the blunt end of the intransigencies of their parents. But we need to understand one thing, that when women tend to apologize, they are doing so because of a congenital nature as the home makers. They own their home virtually, and they don't want the home to tear apart. That is internal. The man's challenge is externally, what people think of him. The woman's challenge is internally, what will people think that I did to my home? And these are the two sides of it. But when the two people become intransigent and they don't want to move their position, if you hello?
Hello? Yes, Reverend. You finish up and then I get back to you.
Yeah. If you are Christians like me, then the first thing you need to understand is your anger is just a temporary tool, it's not a permanent solution. It is just temporary. You have to come back to, let me use a strong word, your senses, the two of you all, and begin to work your way up from the ground. And make sure that you are making this home a place for raising good children. That is all. But the bottom line is, if you stay like that, then you are virtually saying that the two of you don't want the relationship to work
anymore.
And I also don't like this idea that one person will be the constant, in inverted commas, fool of the relationship, who is always losing the fight and losing arguments and having to apologize, because it gets to them. Spiritually, it gets to them. They become spiritually drained, emotionally drained. And if you are even very observant, it begins to affect their appearance in public and things like that. They begin to lose self-confidence as human beings, because even at work, it will begin to have effect on them, where they are always on the lookout not to offend anybody, and they recoil into their shell. This is one of the dangerous things that happen in marriages. When I use the word freeze, when people freeze and decide that okay, you are right. You are right. If you are a man and you are getting those responses, put your butt on a seat and begin to think, because it means that there is something totally and basically wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. The idea of this home, the idea of this whole marriage is to know that differences are the things, if you are able to celebrate your differences, that is when you have a good relationship. If you can't celebrate those differences and enjoy the fact that the other person has a better skill than you in a field or in an area, and see those differences as a tool of perfecting your weaknesses, then you are in trouble. Because you are going to sit on your strength, and what will destroy you is your own strength.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me try Lawyer Painter one more time. Hi, Lawyer Painter. I see you're talking back on Zoom.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. I will shoot. Now, you see, the question that you posed for me is a relatively simple question. The question is, how do men resolve conflict in marriage with their wives? I will put it this way. It should be how men ought to resolve conflict with their wives. I say so because I'm talking about imperatives. I'm talking about things that are standard. I'm talking about things that people ought to do even if they cannot measure up to the standard. So that I can tell you and put them down that these things are mandatory if you want your marriage to succeed. If you want to be able to resolve conflict in your marriage, this is the way to go. And to the extent that you deviate, or even the one who tells you, gives you the advice, is able to deviate, that will be a human failing, but it will not it will not negative, or it will not negate the principles that have been established. But before I go to that point, because I'm a lawyer, it's important for me to let you appreciate that marriage is the only institution that the law itself acknowledges as sacred, and the law has made special provisions to ensure that the sanctity of marriage is protected at all stages, so that even our Matrimonial Causes Act in Ghana gives power to a judge to use every effort to resolve, that is to get parties to reconcile. Indeed, the law expressly provides that if at any time in the course of a dissolution, that is to say a divorce proceedings, the judge has reason to believe that there is an avenue for resolving the conflict, the judge ought to adjourn proceedings and permit the parties to go and try and resolve. 2, it is a requirement of law before you get a divorce that you must demonstrate that there have been serious attempts at reconciliation, and the reconciliation efforts have failed. And therefore, if you're a lawyer, when a client comes to you with problems in a marriage on the basis of which the person wishes to dissolve the marriage, the lawyer owes a duty to that client to ensure that you take the client through steps that would rather help the person go back and resolve the marriage. Of course, we are not magicians, meaning that if every effort fails, then obviously. But I'd like to round off by this particular point before I come to the how of your question. The other point is that even if two parties desire a marriage, one party brings a divorce proceeding, the other party also say, I also want a divorce. Divorce is not yours for the asking. Under our laws, if a judge is not satisfied that the special grounds for seeking divorce required by law have been fulfilled on both sides, the judge will refuse the divorce, even if both of you desire it. I'm talking about law, not opinion. This is laid down by law. Yes, and there are reported cases where parties desired marriage, both parties, one petition, the other counter petition. The judge dismissed both petitions. And that's as simple as that. That, of course, gives you an idea. And even when you are married, within 2 years, you can't bring a petition to dissolve the marriage, whatever is happening in the marriage. Within the first 2 years, no court of law will grant you a divorce unless you go for special leave. You go to the court and convince the judge that there are special reasons why you want. These are all have been put in the law, to protect marriage. And therefore, the issue that you have raised is so imperative. And talking about men, we see men become important because, men like to see themselves the head of the family. It's not they like to see. As a Christian, I believe that man is the head of the family. But being the head of the family also gives you immense responsibilities, including taking initiatives to resolve conflict in marriage. The Bible says, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church. The Bible says, as much as it is possible in you, try and live in peace with all men, including your own wife. So therefore, if a conflict arises in a marriage, these are the imperatives. Because your question that you ask is, how do men? I say how men ought to. I have changed your question, and I'm giving you the perspective on the way I look at it. These are things that men ought to do. You can't pretend you are the head of the family when you don't know how to resolve a conflict with your own wife. And therefore, what I mean is that if I rely on those two Bible quotations that I give you, it puts men, to the option. It pushes men to ensure that when they have a problem with their wife, they must take the initiative. I use the word initiative because it is important. We are talking about people who are divided. We are talking about people who are opposed apart. We are talking about people who are not talking. We are talking about people who do not know the first person to break the ice. And I'm saying that men ought to take the lead. Doing so will require you bury your pride. Doing so will require you to not to be too selfish. Doing so will require you to climb down. And I'm saying that if you live with your own wife and you cannot climb down, you cannot bury your pride, you cannot take that initiative, you are not a man enough, according to the perspective, both legal, biblical, and so forth and so on. So first and foremost, how men ought to, the first thing is that men ought to break the ice. I heard other parties speaking about the women. It is true that traditionally women are the ones, but I'm saying that what men ought to do is what I'm telling you, and therefore men, especially Christian men, ought to learn from what I'm saying. That's point number one. Number two, I bring it within local context. We live in a society, we live in people marry and you still have your family, I'm talking about extended family. Men ought to see themselves as not an extension of their extended family, and therefore, and even the woman's extended family actually is for both parties. But the related issue that I'm talking about relates to the context, our cultural context. Some people have made a habit, and I'm talking about men in particular, of lodging complaints about their wives to their family, to the parents. Please, as much as you can, it is not wise. It is not wise for men to report their wives to their parents. They ought not to do it. Please, never ever believe that somebody is going to hate his daughter, is going to share even your view of a matter just because it's a filial thing. But that's not even the real point. The real point is that if you have a problem with your wife, it's between the two of you. It's not about the time. You see, when you begin to talk to other people about problems in the marriage, it's as good as betraying the other person's trust. Because there may be things that you need to talk about which are very deep. But then let me move on from there. When a man has made a decision that he needs to sit down with his wife and he needs to talk with her, please listen to me very carefully. I'm a Christian. I try to be a good Christian. Never ever start a conversation about resolution of a conflict without prayer. Never ever start it. It means nothing if you start it without a prayer. Me, when I make a prayer, let's say, it does not matter how
oh my word.
I fumble. It does not express it. And your intention is to resolve a marriage conflict and you have prayed. Let's say, it doesn't matter. It could be 1 minute. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 3 minutes. Start that conversation with a prayer. God, the Holy Spirit will be present. And please, when you have started the conversation, move on. Be as honest as you can. If it means apologize, learn to apologize. Don't rather push only one aspect, make the other person look like evil, and so forth and so on. A marriage conversation ought to be as honest as it can. And what it means is that if you adopt that approach, because we are talking about the how of things, and that is how men ought to do. Listen carefully. I'm moving on to another point. A lot of men, I'm talking about men, they are talking to their wives, they are having a conversation, but they are so distracted. They are watching the television. Manchester United is playing. So therefore, even though they have muted the television, their concentration is not there. they are fiddling with their mobile phone. It's an insult. This common sense. It's common sense. Don't be talking to your wife and you are watching something else. It means you are not serious. There are a lot of people. Bible says, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. I'm talking about basic knowledge. It doesn't show respect. I tell people, I'm a lawyer. When you come to my office, you cannot even pick your phone. You can't pick it. Before you pick your phone, you need to get my permission, even though you pay for the time you spend in my office. So how come that when you're having a conversation with your wife, sometimes or possibly on issues as serious as that, you are still fiddling with gadgets? It doesn't show respect. I've made a habit of any time that I'm talking to my wife, when the television is on, I put it off. I will put it off. When I'm talking to my wife, I make sure I don't pick my calls, I don't receive calls. And in fact, for the avoidance of that, the best I can do is to mute the phone, turn the screen upside down. And what it means is that for whatever minutes or for whatever time, it does not matter who wishes to contact me within that period. These are the kind of basic things that our generation is losing. I mean, and so men, I mean, they pretend, they popped up and so forth and so on, and they are losing the conversation. And please, I have been married since 1981. There have been problems, there have been all kinds of things, but I thank God for Jesus Christ that I do my best. And I try and do the very basic things. I never ever lodge well complaint to my parents-in-law about my wife. It is foolishness. Of course, there are times that, yes, there are times that maybe you have no option to do that. But I'm saying that as much as possible, don't make it a habit. Don't make it. Don't go there. Don't try.
Oh, God.
These are the kind of things that we're talking about. As for you see, let me give you an idea. I'll just make this small point and possibly allow.
Yes, because we need to be wrapping up.
You know what? I mean, all the conflicts in marriage. Let me tell you this. If you ever read Gulliver's Travels, two cities went to a war. And the war that they won was about which side of the egg must be broken. 90% of fights in a marriage are centered on that. Two people, we have a daughter who wants to go to secondary school. One says you go to Holy Child. One says you go to Wesley Gamma. What do you call it? Wegehe. One is Catholic. One is Methodist. Foolishness. Whichever way the daughter goes, she will finish. Both schools are very good schools. So the quarrel between husband and wife over whether the daughter should go to Wegehe or go to Holy Child is inconsequential. It's insignificant. It is immaterial. It is unnecessary. And somebody must give way and appreciate that no one of them wishes, the downfall of the child or whatever.
Exactly.
These are the kind of give and takes that people ought to appreciate. And so I can go on and on. If you make the mistake of calling me,
we didn't get you on the line early.
so I will leave it at this point.
Thank you. We're very grateful, and thanks for the other perspectives you put in. Really, thank you very much, lawyer. And then our condolences. Wishing you the very best this morning.
You're welcome.
Great. So we'll let you go. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right. So we're ending our show. We're actually done. So Reverend, in just 10 seconds, can you just wrap up for us? 10 seconds. Your final word.
10 seconds. I said it. Anger is contrary to not a permanent solution. And if you are married, speak graciously. Respond kindly. Act divinely. Love differently. Pray positively. And if you have a good vertical relationship with God, your horizontal relationship with your spouse is guaranteed.
Thank you very much. And finally from you, PG.
Adam, the Bible says that love your wife as Christ loved the church and give himself up unto it. And so for me, whenever we look at conflict, ultimately it is not, that's when we look at conflict resolution. It is not ultimately who is right and what it makes us feel. And as Reverend said, who lost and who won. But rather, making sure that whatever place you are coming to, whatever confluence you are coming to, whatever equilibrium you are coming to, it is born out of love. And that you are going to do that. You are going to cover your wife with the love that Christ expects us to cover our spouses with. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Like, it's been 3 weeks of what? Learning from men. And it's been very exciting. God bless you, PG. God bless you, Reverend Okumi Mensah. And then, like I think so, God bless you. Thank you all for making time for us this morning. This is how we end Home Affairs today. My name is Adam Naite. And if I have anything to add, I am not a man. We should all do this in respect. It's very critical. Show me respect. He shows you respect. And let's respect each other through it all. Enjoy your weekend. Daniela, thank you. Who was supporting us, on the technical bench? Is it Biggie? Is it Sule? And whoever it is, thank you. God bless you. We appreciate you. Next week, we come your way with yet another edition of Home Affairs. Stay tuned in. Enjoy the rest of our programs. The Weekend City Show is next. News File will follow. Sports Link, Nathaniel Atta will bring you Sports Link. And then Showbiz A to Z comes your way from 2 to 6 p.m. Today, they're looking at the dark side of showbiz. You will be amazed at some of the things you will hear. Stay tuned in. Love you all. Bye.